Welcome to the third episode of the Find and Seek podcast. I'm Victor. We're going to explore how to have a conversation with someone who has a completely different opinion than ours. This could be controversial. Victor, are you trying to get me killed? I'm not going to talk about my political views or my religious views or my views on gender or border security or abortions or tariffs or climate change, whatever. So just hang tight. There's a method to my madness. And some ancient writers who lived in just as tumultuous times as we do, grew close to and learned from their ideological opposites. And they kind of sort of changed the world for the better. So there's hope for us in this unique time in history. I have a friend who's a math whiz, and I'm not at all. And there have been many times when he's explained things to me that blew my mind about physics or computer programming and all things math. Did I understand them perfectly? No, probably maybe 30%. I don't know. Maybe not even that. Did I get mad at him for correcting my erroneous thinking about those topics? Of course not. He has a doctorate in computational analysis, and I don't even know what that means. When he gets excited about something scientific or math related, and he wants to share it with me, he does, and he makes it super interesting, and I learn a lot, because I know he has a lot to teach me. Sometimes after I kind of finally get it, I get excited too, and I start drawing my own conclusions. If we could all learn to have conversations about controversial political, religious, or spiritual topics, as I get to have with my buddy about math, we'd all get along great. And, more importantly, we'd learn from one another. We'd end up with new aha moments, and we'd both influence other people with our unique knowledge, perspectives, and intellects, and we'd be influenced by their unique knowledge, perspective, and intellects. And we're going to get to see these ideas played out in a silly skit in just a few minutes. It's going to be good. There are 3 lessons written by an ancient guy named Paul, also known as Saul of Tarsus. He lived in the 1st century in a place where Jewish, Grecian, and Romans were always at each other's throats. Each group felt superior to their cultural, religious, and political opponents, and this tension often erupted in riots, revolutions, and executions. Paul wanted everybody to get along, so he gave several important secrets to make this happen, and we're going to look at 3 of them today. Here's the first one. Let your conversation be full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. So whether I agree or disagree with you, I need to speak graciously and respectfully with you. Gee, I wonder if calling you a racist or sexist or idiot or not being willing to listen to your thoughts and perspectives is a gracious way to be. Obviously not. So whether I agree or disagree with you, I can still have a conversation with you if I speak graciously and respectfully. Next, Paul says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. So he's drilling deeper on this one. Not only do I need to be gracious and respectful in my conversation, I need to value my ideological opponent above myself. This is kind of hard. But hey, if both sides are doing that, valuing each other so highly that they are both looking to the interests, the feelings, the motivators, the stories, the backgrounds of one another, both sides will be so careful not to cast insults or to make caricatures of the other side's arguments. They will each have humility, and they will come from the assumption that they have something to learn. Honestly, we got to be aware that if we were all born in different times, different families, different parts of the country, or different nations, or maybe from a different religion or political system, we'd have completely different views. Well, it's kind of humbling. Sometimes I hear somebody telling me the latest news, and I realize I'd never heard that before, because the news sources I frequent presented completely different facts, opinions, and spin. If I'd been frequenting their news sources, their facts, opinions, and spin, I'd have different opinions. If we can remember this, we wouldn't be so quick to demonize the other side, because they're drawing conclusions based upon different journalists and influencers, and predictably coming to different conclusions. And history shows us that over and over again, whole cultures have been in error, and that it sometimes takes decades or even centuries before people can wake up and realize that they were just dead wrong. Do we really think that there's not even the slightest possibility that some of our current thoughts and behaviors could end up being wrong when they look back on us in history? Of course, some of them are. They have to be. If we don't have the humility to think that, we'll feel so morally superior that we could end up even justifying brutal oppression and murder, which culture after culture has done from time immemorial. And it won't lead to respectful conversation. And without conversation, without a forum for many voices to share their unique perspectives, the best ideas won't rise to the top. Shutting down our ideological opponents, as opposed to listening to them, keeps us from growing. As they say, cream always rises to the top. So the best ideas will rise to the top if they're given a chance to be heard. Finally, Paul writes, in Christ's family, there can be no division into Jew and non-Jew, slave and free, male and female. Among us, you are all equal. So there it is. To be a follower of Jesus, we can't see race or gender or economic or political status. We have to focus on the similarities. Focus compassionately on the needs we all have that are 99% the same. If you have a different opinion than me, so be it. But we all share the same needs for safety, for understanding, for food and shelter, for loved ones, for entertainment, for autonomy, for connectedness, for challenges, for esteem, for freedom, for respect. The list could go on and on. But Victor, you say, if I converse graciously, respectfully, and if I did nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, humbly valuing others above myself, not looking to my own interests, but to the interests of the other person, and if they didn't do that, I'd get bowled over, yelled at, not respected. Well, you're absolutely right. There are people who I know voted exactly like me and who have very similar beliefs as I do, who I avoid like the plague, because they don't share their opinions with grace as though seasoned with salt. They're arrogant and completely convinced that they're 100% right about everything. They don't listen to anyone but themselves. They're negative, preachy, feel morally superior, and just downright horrible to be around. But conversely, I have friends who voted differently than me, who have very different religious belief systems than me, who I can't wait to have a good conversation with. They listen respectfully and curiously to my position. They share their thoughts cautiously, seasoning them with salt, careful not to offend, and to respect and hear my concerns, and different facts and conclusions that I've drawn, because of the different political and religious sources I've frequented, and the different kind of person I am. They value me. I value them. We each think of the other as better than ourselves. They're positive, not preachy. They don't feel morally superior. Rather, they feel humble and well aware that their opinions change when new facts come out, and they're open to those facts because they're always listening and learning from others. They are a delight to be around, even if we have different opinions about lots of things. The funny thing is, in time, I end up influencing them a lot, and they end up influencing me a lot. We both end up realizing again and again that the divisions between us were an irrelevance to the fact that we are all part of one big old family of God. As promised, we're going to look at a performance about an imaginary scenario. Let's watch.
Welcome to OMG LOL. I'm your field reporter, Jim Formal, and I have two guests who believe they can have a civilized conversation about the much contested law Congress is considering passing that any sitting U.S. president should have to wear a clown uniform while in public. Richard?
Jim, this is a risky endeavor. This is a highly debated topic at universities and public forums across this great nation.
Yes, Richard. Folks have taken action to ban this controversial topic from public discourse, but not before churches, civic organizations, even families have been split apart by this divisive issue.
We at OMG LOL have tried to take a fair and balanced approach to this political topic, but feelings run high on both sides of the political spectrum. Let's take a look at more examples. If our president dons a clown outfit, I'm leaving the country. And if any of my friends and families are clowners, you're dead to me. And if you want a red nose, I'll give you one the old-fashioned way.
My employer of 36 years fired me because of a Facebook post of me in new shoes. I have big feet. They thought I was supporting the presidential clowning movement. Now I don't have a job and I've been blackballed in my industry.
If our president doesn't man up and wear a clown uniform, he's a liar and a hypocrite. He ran on a platform of joy and happiness and a brighter future for our country's children. How can a child have a bright future without a leader who wears a red nose and makes balloon animals? I don't want to live in that kind of future.
A peaceful anti-clowning rally in Pensacola, Florida. 38 people in orange wigs and red noses got out of a tiny car and squirted literally hundreds of civilians in the face with trick flowers on the lapels. They would have gotten away with it if they wouldn't have been wearing such ridiculously large shoes. Back to you. Well, there you have it. Let the conversation begin.
Hey, I'm Tommy Silly Pants Calhoun, and I'm an unashamed promoter of clowning, not only for our president, but for every elected official in this great country we live in. God bless America!
My name is August Wilhelm Pancreatus, and I am the founding leader of the anti-clowning national organization, SOAP. serious, strict, and ponderous, commonly known by our acronym SPA.
Don't you go first? You seem like a thoughtful guy, and I really want to hear your perspective, buddy-o.
Thank you, Mr. Calhoun. I appreciate your consideration and kind words. For me, the presidential office is one that must project gravitas and command respect from other world leaders and cultures that may not share America's light-hearted love of comedic pratfalls and throwing pies at one another. God forbid that an incursion that started with slinging pies ended up in slinging missiles.
Yeah, I get your point, Mr. Pancreatus. But even Hitler was a fan of Charlie Chaplin's clowning around. He's where he got his little mustache from, you know. Everyone needs to learn to laugh at themselves, to take a light-hearted approach to life. We grown-ups can take ourselves too seriously. America should be leading the world in being childlike, hopeful, humble, and willing to take a pie in the face.
You made an excellent point. America should lead the world by example, instead of meddling with foreign powers and cultures that we don't fully comprehend. In many ways, laughter is the best medicine. The family that plays together stays together. Your argument is thoughtful and insightful.
No, don't give me too much credit, fella. There's a time for everything. Sometimes we need to be sober, serious, strict, and ponderous like your fine organization promotes. When my father passed, God rest his soul, I didn't want to laugh. When I made marriage vows to my missy, I love you, babe, you and me forever. It wasn't a laughing matter. It was as serious as a heart attack. We just want to pops.
Yes, indeed. And my condolences, Mr. Calhoun.
Thanks. And call me Silly Pants.
Thank you, Silly Pants. We were at SPA. Take a rather dour, cheerless view of life. We could use a little more playful, comedic, dare I say, clownish view. Would you be willing to give a seminar to our followers? Help us be willing to engage in a more lighthearted approach to this national conversation.
It would be an honor, Mr. Pancreatus.
Please. August.
My new best buddy, August. It'd be an honor to share my love of clown apparel for the president of this great nation, but I want you to come and speak at our rallies to help us learn more of that gravy toss you was talking about and learn how to be respectful of foreign powers and cultures and all that jazz. Oh, here's a tall drink of water. I feel like an Oompa Loompa.
Well, there you have it, Richard. It seems our debaters were able to have a civilized conversation, even from such polarized positions, because they truly respected and honored one another above themselves. No selfish ambition, no conceit. They spoke graciously and respectfully of one another, and treated one another as equals.
Thank you for facilitating this eye-opening discussion, Jim. I think I'm really beginning to understand this concept of humility and compassion. I'm so glad our organization is unlike our competitors, who are anti-American, racist Nazis who want to kill kittens and eat horse poo-poo. I'm Richard Thumbleberg, and this is OMG LOL. Have a good evening and good night.
Well, there you have it. Sure, this issue is not as complicated or emotionally charged as the real issues we're facing today. But the power of a good conversation, a respectful conversation, can't be overstated, where people honor one another and are humble enough to really, really listen. I hope and pray that you have folks in your life who you can have good conversations with, just like that. If not, maybe you can lead the way learning to communicate compassionately. There's no greater book on the subject as Nonviolent Communication, A Language of Life. He also has videos on the web. His name is Marshall Rosenberg. Write it down. I've listened to video after video of his, read his book several times, and I know this much. I got a long ways to go. Thanks for watching. You guys are awesome. Please click like if you learned anything and subscribe to the channel. I pray you have an honest, compassionate, respectful conversation this week. If you do, share it in the comments and I'll respond and I'll celebrate it with you. See you next week.